Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Wise Decision Maker Show, where we help you make the wisest and most profitable decisions. My name is Dr. Gleb Tsipursky. I'm the CEO of Disaster Avoidance Experts, the future of work consultancy that sponsors the Wise Decision Maker Show. And today with me is Kelly Knight, the president and integrator of EOS Worldwide. Kelly, can you tell us a little bit about what EOS Worldwide does?
Sure, Gleb, it's great to be here with you today. And EOS stands for Entrepreneurial Operating System, and it's a simple, practical set of tools and a process that help entrepreneurs get everything they want through their business.
And I can affirm that a number of startups, middle market companies that I work with have used EOS extensively and successfully, the system. So tell me a little bit more about how EOS operates as a remote organization and how you deal with worker burnout as an issue.
Sure. So here at EOS Worldwide, we're the organization that is all things EOS in the world, meaning that we've got EOS implementers and entrepreneurs and leadership teams that run on EOS around the globe. But we here at EOS Worldwide, we run on EOS just like all of those other organizations. So we run on the same process. We use the same set of tools and the same 6 key components. So a big part of that, Gleb, is really starting with the vision. That's one of our 6 key components. And so that is sharing with our internal team here at EOS really where we're going, what's our purpose, cause, and passion at EOS, and how we're going to get there. And so by creating that alignment around, common vision and also around core values, which are very important to us, that then allows us to kind of connect each individual contributor and team to the overarching vision, which gets people really excited. In a virtual environment, you have to do that sometimes more often or differently than you might in person because you don't have the water cooler or the ability to walk down the hallway to do that with people like you would in person. So we do that by sharing, again, the vision and the core values during the quarterly state of the company messaging and meetings where we share where we've been, where we are, where we're going. So we get that 100% clarity and alignment around the direction of the organization. And then, again, begin to attach what others are doing in the business, quarterly rocks and objectives and priorities to how they're contributing to the greater good of the organization. So again, it's just repetition. We say 7 times the first time. That's very true of us at EOS too.
And so considering that you're thinking about worker burnout as one of the issues to address, how are you addressing remote burnout as a specific issue?
Sure. So the first and foremost is building really trusting, vulnerability-based relationships with team members so that you're really having a meeting pulse and a common way to get together to listen and learn to what's working for them and also what's not working. So when things are going great, that's wonderful. We want to know what those things are, but also when someone is feeling burnt out or not having work-life balance, that can come out of those conversations that we're having one-on-one between a manager and their team member. So something that we have is called quarterly conversations. Certainly you're meeting with team members in between intra-quarter, but it's those quarterly conversations where we do have those open, honest, vulnerable, authentic conversations about how are things really going for you individually, for our team, and for the organization at large. And that's then when you can kind of pull at some of the strings of what's not working if someone's feeling burnt out and begin to think through or get to the root of the issue of how to support them. So as an example, if someone is just over capacity, too much to do on their plate, let's actually take an assessment of that. And there's a tool that we have called Delegate and Elevate, and that allows us to basically differentiate between what people love to do, they're great at, and also the things that maybe they're not so great at and they don't love to do, and to be able to delegate those tasks and responsibilities to others who actually do like to do them. So that what we're doing is we're matching up the capacity of what a person's timetable is on a weekly, monthly, quarterly basis to the work that they're best, their God-given talent, what they're really meant and designed to do. So that's one of the tools that we use, but other things include really finding out what is causing the strife or the discomfort. Sometimes we need coping mechanisms or some tools that can help us to deal with things that might be happening in our lives, because holistically, what we have happening in our personal lives and what we have in our professional lives generally aren't compartmentalized. They do tie to one another. So really getting to the root of, are there other things that we can be doing to give you more flexibility in your timetable at work? Maybe you need to come in later so that you can take your children to school, or you might need to leave them, pick them up early, and that can alleviate some time constraints or frustrations you might be feeling, anxieties you might be having in a personal aspect of your life. So, but you won't know what the obstacles are until you just have those really direct, open, honest relationships. And that takes time to build between a manager and their teams, but it's well worth the payoff of the time investment to do that.
Okay, so kind of the relationship building, the conversations, and the assessment tool and delegations. That's interesting. So I've helped 23 companies transition to hybrid work and remote work arrangements. And what we find is that there are systematic issues with people who spend their time working remotely all their time or part of the time that are different from burnout issues from in-person employees. For example, with people who are working remotely, there's sometimes difficulties in work-life balance separation. So when people have challenges doing that, so that's an issue that we've addressed that in some systematic ways. For example, we've set one of the issues with the work-life balance separations that people feel they have to be on all the time and respond to messages quickly. So instead, what we do with companies I work with is set some common time, like 11 a.m. to 3 p.m., when you're expected to respond to messages, like let's say a Slack message or Microsoft Teams, within 15 minutes. You're expected to respond to an email within an hour. And then you don't have to worry about responding outside of the 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. time slot until the next 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. time slot. That's one thing that we found to be quite helpful in addressing that issue. And another issue is just setting boundaries in terms of when you're expected to work. So that common time is response time. You're expected to respond within that certain time period. But when are you expected to work? Again, some people, when they're working remotely, we very clearly see that people who are working remotely are much more productive individually on their individual tasks. They don't have to commute, they don't have to bother with that. But that helps, it sometimes causes a challenge where they overwork. So work, maybe it's fine if they work half an hour more, but they end up working 2 or 3 hours more, and they end up burning out. And so setting some expectations for, hey, we don't really want you to work outside of work hours, except on some rare occasions, or if you talk to your manager about this, or the total amount of time. It's fine if you work outside your work hours, but don't work more than 20% more than your typical workday unless it's an emergency, because if you systematically do that, you tend to burn people out. So that's some strategies we found specifically for people who are working remotely or in a hybrid modality so they don't burn out. I'm curious if you found any strategies like that might be helpful.
Sure. So first of all, I love the idea of getting in place something that's for the whole organization, a set of standards that can help that for those that are remote employees. And we have 100% virtual, other than our technology team that happens to be in Birmingham, Michigan, but basically everyone else is all through the United States and the world. Some other things that we've tried, Gleb, because we want to create flexibility for different kinds of teams, meaning like the cadence and the way that our marketing and sales team works may be different than our operations or finance teams. So we've created, some guidelines around it's a 24-hour response period at the very least to get back to emails and things like that. We've also done, as we've had these one-on-one conversations that I've been speaking with you about, we've also found certain things that are hiccups for individuals that we can help to solve for. So as an example, my assistant was finding, she works from home, that she on the weekends would be tempted to come into her office, and she's got a little son, Henry, who she wants to spend her time with on the weekends or evenings and whatnot. And so she and I talked about it, and what we created was a visual aid for her where she puts up a sign outside her office door, which is shut for the weekend, that says, do not enter again until Monday. And so that was just a really simple little thing that was like her temptation, how we addressed it for her individually. Another thing that we did, which has been, I think, really well received, actually we're due to do another one, is what we call a take a break day. And that's where it's an unexpected day that gets announced well in advance so that everyone can plan for it. But say it's a month or 6 weeks in advance, it's in the middle of the week and it's a Wednesday, and it's where the whole organization takes an ad hoc day off where you're not able to check emails, you're not doing any work, you're just doing something for yourself. And so that's just another way to like break things up that's unexpected or unanticipated. To go be with your family, go out with a friend to lunch, go shopping, do something, work in your yard and do gardening like you like to do with your garden. So little things like that, you'll be surprised how they add up to show an impact of just creating some relief and kind of almost like opening up as if you have a shaken soda bottle and you relieve that pressure, is just to give folks an outlet and permission to get some relief in their schedule and to change it up a little bit. So sometimes it's just that flexibility component that can be really helpful to remote teams to break up the monotony of sometimes being alone in working in your office. One other thing that we've done is we will host virtual events, team building events. We did a charcuterie board where everyone was given a budget. You go buy supplies, and then at the holiday season, everyone's putting together boards that have meats and cheeses, and there's someone teaching you how to make these beautiful things for the holidays. So I think it's just your creativity is really your only limitation, is being open-minded and flexible to the needs of individuals like my assistant, but then also to teams that might have different methodologies for how they like to work, and then thinking about it from the global company-wide perspective too.
I like that, those three levels. That's very helpful. Now, as we're wrapping up, what do you think is the future of remote work, not simply for EOS Worldwide, but more broadly? You work with a number of clients who are middle market companies, and you're observing what they're doing. So what are your thoughts on where the future is heading? I mean, we're seeing more AI, for example. AI is very clearly going to facilitate more remote work because people are going to be quicker able to get information that they previously had to be in the office to get quickly. AI is clearly going to enable them to get information more quickly. So that's a factor that I see as facilitating more time spent working remotely, just because information sharing is easier. What are you thinking about the future?
The future, I think, is going to continue to really embrace this flexible, virtual / hybrid kind of thinking, because really during the pandemic, by sheer need of the fact that we couldn't get together in person, it created this virtual demand over Zoom and whatnot. And it erased borders. It erased the borders of international, where we might not have worked with someone in a different part of the world because it wasn't practical. And we were doing things eyeball to eyeball around tables. So now we're able to curate talent from different industries, different parts of the world that have different lines of thinking that, again, having a variety, a diversity of thinking amongst team creates better results. We've seen that time and time again in case studies. So I think that's going to continue to evolve. Clearly AI and ChatGPT and all of that we're seeing just is an accelerant to that, because those that embrace technology and how to use it to the benefit of the organization and partnerships and collaborations and all of that, I just see it continue to accelerate more.
Excellent. Well, this was very helpful, Kelly. Thank you very much for sharing your expertise with our audience.
It was great to be here. Thanks for having me.
And thank you to the audience for checking out another episode of the Wise Decision Maker Show. Please make sure to subscribe wherever you check us out and leave a review. It helps others discover the show, and it helps us improve the show. All right, everyone. I look forward to seeing you next episode of the Wise Decision Maker Show. In the meantime, the wisest and most profitable decisions to you, my friends.